Okay, I'd like to call our meeting. Oh, are we ready? Are we ready? Connie, is he ready? Okay, I'd like to call our meeting back to order, reconvene the meeting. And first order of business is to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Do I have a motion?
So move.
And a second. Are there any comments, questions, corrections of the minutes? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, the minutes for the last meeting are approved, and I will turn the meeting over to our superintendent, Dr. Montesano.
Thank you. To begin the presentation, I'm going to actually introduce one of our staff members who's going to bring in a couple students to talk about the SFL Day that I thought you all would be interested in. So is Aaron Kine is here, one of our guidance counselors, and I'm going to ask him to talk to you a little bit and then introduce our students for their presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for the floor. My name is Aaron Kind. I'm one of the school counselors at the high school. I am also the SFL advisor. Thank you for the mic. Just real briefly, and I'm going to let the students do all the talking because they've really done all the work. About 12 years ago, SFL Day was started by the then principal, and the idea was to give the students an opportunity to spend the day exploring topics that were either discussed in the classroom and to dig a little bit deeper, or to explore something that's a little bit, well, that's more relevant to their life. So some previous examples include there was a screening of the Inconvenient Truth documentary at the time that it, I guess, was released. That was followed by a scientist from MIT talking about the other theories about global warming. In previous years, there was a day spent discussing the Syrian refugee crisis, and I guess most recently there was a Health and Wellness Day last year. I'm going to leave the punchline here to the students, but just if I can comment, and we've said this privately to the four scholars behind me, that in the midst of applying early decision and early action to college and playing football and field hockey and possibly soccer, I keep thinking soccer, the four of them have displayed a level of accountability and responsibility that if you four continue this throughout your life, you're going to be very successful. And both myself and Ann Meyer, and the high school principal, have been very impressed by their enthusiasm, their hard work, their dedication, and their ability to manage, AP Calculus, AP English Literature, and everything else that they're doing, in addition to organizing a great event that I'm going to let the four executive board members, Griffin, Claire, Hannah, and Ned, tell you about.
Hi, I'm Claire. I'm the vice president of the SFL. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the theme, which is called The Pursuit of Happiness. And so basically the SFL is put in charge of planning this day, and at about November we decide talking about topics, and one of the topics that kept coming up is kind of a career day where kids get to choose what groups they're in, choose what they're really interested in. And one of the pieces that we kind of looked at was how people become very successful, and we looked at, which is actually, there's this little drawing in Mr. Kine's office that has an arrow and it says what people think success looks like, and then another arrow that has a straight line but a bunch of kind of squigglies showing that you don't reach success just on a linear path. It's a lot of ups and downs, so we tried to find people that kind of went through this challenging time. And so the day will begin with our keynote speaker, whose name is Neistat, and I know Griffin will speak more about it. And then we'll break off into 3 different subgroups and then come back to our EF classes in the afternoon.
So my name is Griffin Garbarini. I'm the president of the SFL. And this year we were looking for a keynote who would really engage the entire audience. But more than that, tell everyone a story that they were interested in and teach everyone something. So I reached out to Casey Neistat, who is a YouTuber. He grew up very poor in southern Connecticut, and he moved to New York City, started working for a famous photographer, and then worked his way up to having his own show on HBO, and now he has about 9 million subscribers on YouTube and is extremely successful and is the founder of Beam News Corporation, which is owned by CNN, and it's kind of like Vice. It's really cool. And he will be coming to speak, and he was very generous enough to come speak pro bono, and we're very excited about that. And he will be speaking from 8 to 10. And before we were talking about SFL Day, we were analyzing the Challenge Success Survey results, and we were looking that people want to learn more about how to be successful, and not as much as about college prep as about career prep and what their future holds. And I think Casey will really talk to doing what you want, but more doing what you love, and that's why we titled the day Pursuit of Happiness.
So my name is Dan McCann. I'm the treasurer of SFL, and so there are different subgroups of the day, and I'll be talking about Friday Night Lights, which has to do with sports, and The Big Short, which had to do with business. So one of the great speakers that we got was Mr. Bogano, who runs many desks at Citibank, and will be bringing an assistant with him to simulate a stock market floor, selling school materials like pencils, staples, that kind of stuff, but just giving them exposure to what I guess the business world is really like. Also, we got, for the Friday Night Lights aspect, Roger Goodell. So he'll be speaking to those who chose the sports activity. And another speaker we got was Mr. Bajigalupo, who is a Hall of Fame lacrosse player from Princeton, one of the most decorated lacrosse goalies. And they'll be talking about their experiences in sports. With Roger Goodell, he started from the very bottom of the NFL, cleaning towels, and made his way to the commissioner spot today. So I think that just shows the perfect success story to the students. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hannah Wyrens, and I'm the secretary of SFL. And kind of how Ned was touching on how the groups were split up into how he talked about Friday Night Lights and The Big Short. We really wanted to stress this year that people would be in groups that they were genuinely interested in learning about. We felt that in years past, it was kind of just put alphabetically, and so people were put into groups that they probably didn't have much interest in. So even though this required more work, and we actually spent this past Saturday in Griffin's room kind of figuring everything out on the Google Sheets, we're really proud with what we came out with, just because we feel like this will encourage a lot of people to come in and just really take away as much as they can from the day. So two topics that I'll be talking about is Project Runway and Law and Order. So as you can tell, they're all based on TV shows and movies. So for Project Runway, which is my favorite topic, that has beauty people and people in the fashion industry. So one of the bigger speakers that we have is Carmen Mark Valvo, who is a fashion designer. And he used to design for Dior, and now he has his own fashion line. And when I was looking into some of his stuff, I Googled Carmen Mark Valvo celebrities, and I saw that Beyonce was wearing one of his things, so I feel like that automatically added legitimacy to him in my mind. And we also have a woman that works at MAC, and she said that she's going to be bringing a lot of samples, so I feel like a lot of people that like to wear makeup, that will be like an automatic kind of magnet to that group. And for Law and Order, we have Rob Astorino, who is a local politician, and I know that in my political science class, we talked a lot about him, so I feel like having him speak to our students in small groups and to also see him getting breakfast in the morning before the day starts, I feel like that will be really interesting, because I know Miss Rydell really gave us a lot of information about him, and I'm really interested to see kind of how he started and how he got to where he is today. And we also have lawyers, so people that are interested in the law portion can really dive into that and how to become a lawyer, how to study, and all of the kind of technicalities of the law, part of Law and Order. Yeah.
So the subcategory that I'm most excited about, even though I won't be participating in, is Shark Tank meets Silicon Valley. So we noticed in the high school, we're talking a lot more about innovation and how we can inspire creativity. And Mr. Cornish, who's the high school physics teacher, has really helped everyone out with their ideas. And basically in this group, which will be run by a gentleman named Mr. Matthew Hooper, who professionally used to work at Barclays Bank and now runs hackathons. And what a hackathon is basically a bunch of people are brought together who are very intelligent, and they're given a problem. For example, one of the ones he just run was people who were victims of identity theft created programs and applications that help protect people against identity theft. And they write code and they create applications, and it's a span over a couple days. But what myself and Bridget Sands, who's a member of the SFL and the junior class president, have arranged is we have around 6 or 7 speakers who are going to be coming in who are very talented in their field, either venture capitalists, people who create their own business, so entrepreneurs, and Mr. Hooper. And what they're going to be doing is we have 8 groups of 10 people who are going to be asked the problem, how can we help students prepare for tests more? And the ideal answer would be an application that is multiplayer online, that is educationally based. Now everyone loves being online, playing Clash of Clans, which is an app that a bunch of people used to play, and it's all about online. You're linked with everyone else when you're playing. And I think this will definitely set the tone for what we want the high school to look like in the future, because like I said, creativity is definitely, and innovation is definitely the path that we're looking to go down.
The last of our groups is called Grey's Anatomy, and it focuses on, we have a bunch of doctors coming in, and we have Mr. Maldonado, we have Dr. Leanne DeSaris, who will actually just be coming back from a trip from India, where she'll be talking a little bit about the nonprofit side of being a doctor. And we also have Mr. McCann coming in, who is a brain surgeon, and a lot of them will also bring in videos of their surgery to show the students who are interested in medicine. That's pretty much it. If anyone has any questions, ask away.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Khan.
much.
Guys did a great job. Thank you. Can't wait for the day to come. 2 other items under my report. First, rather than a review of the capital planning project, I'd just like to point out that later on the agenda, the board is being asked to pass a resolution authorizing the vote of the referendum to be held on March 13th. As you know, since the beginning of the school year, pretty much we've been reviewing the facility needs that we have here in the district. There are extensive needs that we need to address, a lot of infrastructure needs that need to be taken care of, and we've worked with our architects and engineers and various groups of parents and committee members to scale down and prioritize the projects, and we're at the point now that we're comfortable authorizing a vote to be held on March 13th. It's only a couple months away. There'll be a lot more information to be coming out for people to really look through the information, give them the information they need to have an informed vote. We will be inviting people in for community forums, tours, and any other kind of information that we can gather to get out to people so people can come out to have an informed vote. So we ask everybody to please put it on their radar. Please mark the date down for March 13th. And please visit the website where we will be posting updated information on the referendum, where you can see a list of projects, associated costs, and within a couple of weeks we'll have some renderings of various places that need renovation and what that might look like.
I guess maybe we can put this sound system, loop this under the under the referendum.
It's
as
fading in
well.
and out.
But the I will say the board is 100% behind this. At least I assume so. We'll find out later when we vote. And we're very excited about it. Now we realize that this timing is not perfect by any stretch. I've been on the board. This is my 6th year on the board, and we've been deferring projects for a long time so that we could group everything into one bond rather than have a number of smaller bond referendums go out every year that impact the taxes. So we've tried to minimize taxes, and we looked at this as an opportunity to be tax neutral. As certain bonds rolled off, we would put everything, group everything else into a bond so that there would be no increase in taxes. That was the board, the administration strategy for a number of years. And you know, as you may have read in Dr. Montesano's letter to the public, so many of these things just absolutely need to be done. So many of them are infrastructure related, where our 100-year-old building is just needs updating. It's falling apart. Brick pointing and roofing and plumbing and so many different masonry, so many different things that are included in this. As I said, the board is excited about it. We know because we're involved so heavily into the operations here how important it is for these things to be done. We just want to be able to, and hopefully be able to communicate it to the public that this needs to be done for our school, so our school can continue to be one of the very best schools in the country and continue to be rated that way. And so we're very much looking forward to everyone asking questions, coming out to vote, and I think that people will, if they understand the facts behind it and the things that need to be done, they'll understand why we're doing it this time. So I'll leave it at that. I refer you to Dr. Montesano's letter that went out last week.
Friday.
It went out last Friday, and so we'll move on and continue to try to educate and communicate, what we're doing and what's being covered under the construction and the renovation and the repairs and maintenance that is included in the referendum. The referendum, by the way, is the project's total with contingencies and architect's fees and all the other fees that go in. It's roughly a $25 million project. The bonds are projected to be, 21 million?
21.8.
21.8 million. $3 million will come out of our capital improvements fund and our operations. We're going to try to fund other reserves, and then we will have state aid. On top of that, we haven't gotten the word back from the state what that might be. Could be anywhere from, we're hopeful, 10 to 20%. If you use 15, that would be another $3 million that would offset interest going forward. So we have scaled this back to be tax neutral and to minimize taxes to the extent possible. We're all taxpayers on this board, and we understand the importance of that. We understand the timing of it with the new tax laws and things. We understand how difficult that is. But it doesn't change the fact that we have outstanding students, outstanding families moving here to be a part of our school, and we need to continue to improve it to the extent we can. So with that, I think we want to move the agenda up.
I have one more item, and then
Oh,
we can
okay.
do that if you don't mind. The last thing under on my area is a proposed calendar, school calendar for the next school year that I draw your attention to. It's up for a first review. And I'd just like to point out a couple things that I know will make some people probably unhappy, and that's the lateness of when we get out next year, which is currently scheduled at June 26th. And the reason for that is the state sets the end of the school year by the region's rating day, and we really have no control over that at all. So that's why it's right now scheduled for June 26th, because that's the latest we heard from the state. In addition, you'll see on the calendar, and according to our teacher contract, we have 4 superintendent days scheduled. Those are the ones that appear up there in yellow, and 182 student days, which, again, that's driven by contract. So there are some, good thing we kept our week vacation in February and in April. But I ask that you spend a little time taking a look at it, and if you have any specific questions that come up before the board is asked to approve it, I'd entertain those.
We don't approve the first reading?
No, just
right?
a first review, yes. So you don't have to approve anything. So now
Okay.
if you don't mind pulling that one up, I appreciate it.
Okay, so now we're going to just move farther down the agenda. Dan, there's some, the foundation, we're going to move to the foundation grants?
Yeah, just on the action item C.
Yes, we have 3 foundation grants. Action item C, I believe. There's 2 grants for probes, for remote data collection and conductivity, and one grant for special education digital library, totaling roughly $5,500 or so for all 3. And again, I'd recommend that we accept these grants with gratitude from the foundation.
And before I ask the board to vote on that, and I'd just like to point out to you that the 2 science grants were done by students. And a couple of students are in the audience tonight that I'd like to recognize for their work on the Bronx River Science Project, as well as putting the effort in to fulfill out the grant application. And they're here tonight to make sure you guys say yes so they can do their work. So in the audience, we have Jack Palermo and Joe Seminara. So you guys, thank you for the work that you did on behalf of the science research.
Future PhDs. Huh? Yeah. If you really enjoyed that grant process, you'll enjoy doing research. Thank you very much. And so we can move back to.
You want to approve those?
Do we need to approve this? Okay, so I have a motion to approve. So moved. We have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. That's approved.
Get to work, guys.
Okay, let's move on.
Back up to where you were, too.
So is Dan.
Dan's going to take Rachel's report.
Okay,
Yes.
Dr. Kelly is out, sick, unfortunately, so Mr. Carlin will pinch hit for her.
Absolutely. I did. Everybody try and contain their enthusiasm. Let's see where we are. We have some personnel items. In item A, we are asking you to approve an overage in high school science, which is helping to cover a leave for the second semester. Item B is a leave replacement for special education. Items C through F are teacher aide changes and teacher aide substitutes. Item G is the appointment of a middle school secretary who's replacing a retired employee. Items H and I are co-curricular appointments and stipends. And item J is the approval of an A&A employee. So I would ask the board to approve these personnel items.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Move.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Any questions or comments on this? So the teachers' assistants, that this is just a normal course?
Yes. Yeah, they tend to be transitory. A lot of them are teachers that have people that have ambitions to be teachers, and if they get a full-time position somewhere else, they leave. So.
Okay.
A&A Maintenance is our cleaning outsourcing company. We approve their employees. We send them to get background checks up at SCD, just so the board knows who's in our buildings.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Dan. Those are approved.
Thank you very much.
And you get to keep the floor.
Moving right along, the board is in receipt of financial update for the current year. Projecting current year surplus seems to be leveling off at about over $500,000, which is a positive thing because in the draft budget that I put together, we're anticipating using $500,000, same as last year, for to offset next year's tax levy. So it's nice to see that we won't have to go into other reserves to fund that or to reduce that. I think we'll probably level off at around this level, at least for the next few months, before we start closing things up at the end of the year.
So what would we have to do to reduce that 500? We would have to, we'd have,
We'd have to increase the tax levy,
or
and
have a bigger
failing the
have a
ability
bigger
to do
surplus.
that, we would
Right.
have to reduce expenditures.
right. Okay. I mean, we've come down from what, 1,200,000 to 500.
Yeah, I think I think almost 1,000,001 is where we peaked a few years ago, and we worked it down to about 500,000, which is right. It's pretty close to 1% of our operating budget, which is kind of a natural surplus. So I think it's a pretty comfortable area to be.
But normally, when you have a surplus, it goes into reserves, which our surplus is going to offset the next year's taxes.
Sure.
So we're dependent upon having a $500,000 surplus, because that's under our tax levy is around $40 million. So that's
Yeah.
that's 1.25% of a tax levy if we had no surplus in a year.
Exactly.
Right. So that's why that's so important to try to, keep that as low as possible and to continue to minimize that. Okay, Dan, continue, please.
And we're involved in budget development for the coming year. We just got our tax cap finalized. It's going to be in excess of 2%, and the board will take that under advisement during the budget process and decide where we want to end up.
And part of that is not in the tax cap, but we also have the retirement plan was up by how much in our projections for next year? Retirement for teachers and... No, you're answering someone else's question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right. The TRS is up how much?
Yeah, 12%.
Which is 250,000?
Yeah, it's over 250,000. So we're dealing with that in next year's budget as well.
Okay, so that's about 0.6%
Yeah.
right there. So that's something that we didn't have last year.
Last year was a
That
reduction.
we do have this year, right?
Yeah.
That was flat last year, or down, or was it? Yeah, it was a reduction last year.
Yeah.
So it was a benefit last year. So, okay. All right. Any questions of Dan on the budget?
State level, because we don't get a lot of state aid, but I think it's like 2.4 million. Any early talk on what that might change with?
Yeah, I think we're going to be up around 2.5.
So you think we
In
might
this
actually
next
get more?
draft of the budget, I'll reflect it as about 2.5 million versus 2.4 for the current year.
And they haven't talked about any type of changes because of federal law, tax law changes.
Not
maybe
so far. The
level?
governor's proposed budget came out last week, and it's pretty close to where we're expecting this year.
Okay. Do you have any other financial action items?
Yes, there's.
Okay.
Well, I guess the field
No.
trip's not finished, or the
Just facilities?
Summer
Want to
trip.
move
Yeah.
to facilities?
facilities. I think Dr. Montesano went over where we are with and you went over where we are with the proposed capital project. We did open bids for the library project a couple days ago. It came in a little higher than budgeted. We're vetting the low bidders. And then we'll sit down with them and do a scope review and see if we can value engineer to get closer to our budget number, which is about 880,000. Low bid came in at about 940. So it's not that significant, but we'll see what we can do. You know, if we want to keep the overall infrastructure of the project in place. You know, if instead of buying new bookshelves, we can refurbish old bookshelves, something that we can also augment at a later date, that's how we'll look to value engineer.
But our estimate before included contingency,
Yes.
and this does not include contingency.
Well, we're going to value engineer to include
Right,
contingency
right, okay.
because it's an old portion of the building.
Right.
And I'll update you as those talks progress.
But that's scheduled to start on the
April.
April break.
Yeah, we're still looking probably to award the bid at the February meeting, and which gives us plenty of time to mobilize and start in April.
How many bids did you receive, Dan?
There was I think about eight bids.
You sound surprised with that.
I'm surprised at the difference from the low bids to the high bids. Probably the high bid was double what the low bid was, but there was more than one in the range of the low bid, which is somewhat comforting. It's just, you know, you never know what to expect when you're opening these bids.
Are they contractors that we worked with before?
No, that's part of the vetting process and the scope review.
And I'd
Some of the
remind
bidders we've worked with.
everyone that this project is was approved to be funded at the amount that we said
Yes,
by the PTA. So this is not coming out of school funds. So again,
correct.
we can never thank the PTA and the foundation enough
Absolutely.
for the financial help that they provide the district. Okay, that's a good update. Do we have any other facilities? Jack,
No,
anything
that's
else
it.
on facilities?
The action item.
Okay, we have the resolution.
Yes.
At this point, do you want to put that up? Now, the resolution, was that in the? Yeah, we've seen, we've seen that. Has it been up on board docs for the public?
Yes.
For the public, okay, so we don't need to read it then. But this is the resolution that was up on board docs, and do I have a motion to approve this?
Move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions around this at all? Any other comments? Okay, all in favor of the resolution?
Roll call on this.
Oh, we do?
Aye.
Aye.
Approve.
Aye.
Approve.
Aye.
Okay, is that it? Okay, thank you very much. That is approved, and so our target date there is March 13th, right? Now, the way this works is we have to publicize this, we have to make this public, and then we cannot vote until 45 days has lapsed. So March 13th is our target date for this.
Jeff, may I say that I really hope that the community is engaged on what the board has worked very hard and carefully on. And if there are questions, that people get over whatever shyness problem they may have and approach board members who, if they can answer the questions, will, and if cannot, will point people in the right direction. There's a lot of information to be had here. Sometimes I perceive that people have some feeling that the board members are sitting in some room seeking ways to adopt silly action resolutions. And sometimes we do, but this isn't one of them. And I really hope that people are engaged and reach out and find out the facts so they can have their own comfort level, whatever their view is and whatever their vote may be. And touching upon voting, I really, really hope that people come out to vote.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Curran. Okay, so is there any committee reports? Any finance committee? Or anything? Any other?
I have one
committee?
more resolution. The board needs to approve varsity baseball trip.
Oh.
The
well,
board
right,
has all the
right, right.
details on the trip.
Now, according to it looked like it's being funded, that we're not funding.
No, but the board approves the trip. And
Right.
if the board approves the trip, our insurance covers the trip.
Right, got it, okay.
I move we approve the trip.
Okay, do we have a second? Any questions on this trip to Orlando, where they think they're gonna play at least one game? I thought, that, a lot of practice, I thought they should maybe play more than one game, but, yeah.
Mr. Curran should go with them.
Yeah,
I
right,
would, so moved.
yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. That is approved. As a former high school baseball player, I would, from Toledo, Ohio, never went to Florida. I'm sure they will very much appreciate that.
They just
Right. Well, now they're on their way.
Baseball team.
Get those non-refundable tickets. Yeah, right. So, okay, committee reports, I've asked. There are no committee reports. Okay, so let's move to public commentary. Is there anyone in the public who would like to comment? Not having,
Kelly, you
Any?
don't have anything that you'd like to offer?
okay. Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
One second. All in favor? All right, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
You talked to Bettina again?
See, why can't your other school district be like this? In and out.
I said-
We're just getting rolling. We're
Well, I know,
just
you're
getting
saying-
rolling.